Oh, hang on. Why am I not on screen? Hang on. I should be on screen. What's happening here? Oh, I am on screen. My mistake. Sorry. Hello, everybody. How are we all doing? Some settings has changed and not doing what it should be doing. That's better. I'm on full size. How are we doing, everybody? Welcome along. It is Sunday night. It is just gone 6 o'clock. It is time for our Sunday get together. I've got to admit, I haven't missed one of these Sundays for a long time, but I look forward to these Sundays every day now, every week. It's the highlight of my week. It's a good chance, as we know, we get around every Sunday, we have a chat, we get together. We're quite a good community. Now, we're talking about two questions. So the first question I'm asking, and we're going to start off with this question is, have you ever paid or hired somebody to do some garden work for you? This is something quite topical for me at the moment. I have, if you've listened to the podcast or even heard me talking about it, I have this rather large elm tree in my garden that I've been saying I've got to take down for quite a while now. And it's a two-man job. I tried to employ somebody to do it. I tried to get somebody to do it for us, but I couldn't get anybody to even quote for it. Just said it wasn't worth their time, was the impression I got. So I'm a little bit miffed by that. Instead, me and Amanda are trying to do it. It's not easy to do, but it's got me wondering is, have you actually ever had to employ somebody to do anything in your garden? It could be as simple as something specialized, tree felling, tree surgery, anything like that, to manual just cutting the grass, anything like that. Or maybe even laying down a new paving area, patio area, or something like that. Let us know if you have employed anybody for that. First of all, let's see if anybody is out there. We've got Adrian saying, hi, Richard and all. Good evening to you. We've got Turbo Stream saying, good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. We got Muddy Puddles Farm. Evening. I'll be back in a minute. Good evening to you. Gary is there saying, good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing okay and not too affected by the January blues. I've got a little/huge list of gardening jobs to do, but not managed to prioritize the time just yet. I know how you feel. Stuart Jackson says, evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Hope you've all had a great week. Kate says, good evening, Veg Army. And Scott says, good evening, all. And Allotted Chef, aka Nathan, says, good evening, all. Same to you. Muddy Puddle is back and says, here we go. Good evening to you. Rob says, good evening, all. I hope you are all okay. Digwell says, and butto me wanna see wanna e juby juby. It means nothing. I just wanted to hear Richard say it. Oh, you know, I don't proofread. I don't have time to proofread. Nicholas says, evening all. What a lovely bit of sunshine today. Indeed. Well, we didn't have sunshine today, but Friday was lovely. Andrew's there. Evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Good evening to you. What have we got? Highgrave Gas, evening all. Couldn't connect initially, but here now. I wondered what happened there. Over on Instagram, Andy's Garden 24 has joined. Muddy Puddle says, many years ago, when I was very pregnant, I took a tree down yesterday. Sorry, many years ago when you were pregnant, you employed somebody. What did you employ him to do? What did you hire a gardener to do? And taking a tree down yesterday, well done, well done. I wish I could say the same. It's a tall tree. Andrew says, in my village, I only employ my neighbours to help with tree felling, etc. But we usually offer help in kind. That is a sign of a good community. Agreed. Yeah, I wish I had somebody to help, apart from Amanda, of course, help with our tree, but we're getting there. I'll talk about it a little bit more. Stuart says, yes, removing an ash tree, building my shed and putting my fence up, all too big for me, on my own. Ash tree, same as me. Ash tree here it's heavy, isn't it? The heavy trees. Turbo Stream says, last year I had a gardener to reduce the height of a 65-foot long privet hedge. Previously, he felled a big holly tree. How tall was your privet hedge and what is it now? If it's 65 foot long, how tall? How tall? Adrian says, I'm about to employ a chap to cut down a very large willow tree about to fall on the road. It's too big for me to tackle as it requires climbing a tree. Yep, I know how you feel. I mean, tree surgery, I'm going to say this right at the onset. So, tree surgery, I feel, is something that is very specialized. It seems easy, it looks easy, but it can be so dangerous. And this is why I was looking at employing somebody. One of my cousins, and I may have mentioned this before, he used to have his own gardening company, quite a successful one. And he was cutting down the tree. He had his staff, he had PPE, hard hat on, and a branch landed on his head. And unfortunately, he ended up in hospital. And because of that, he couldn't carry on with that job. He had to close the business down. It's not something to be messed around with when it comes to tree felling. So, yeah, lot to remember there. Scott says, I had someone rotivate before we laid the turf in the garden. And Turbo Stream says, sadly, no sunshine here today, been misty and dank. What else have we got? We have got Ballycillian. Hi all, good evening to you. Muddy Puddle says, that was funny. It was just to cut the grass, but I couldn't start the petrol lawnmower. That's when she employed somebody to cut the grass. Well, you know, there's no shame in it. There is no shame in it. And this is something I want to explore today. I'm sure there are things that we have all paid people to do. And I just want to get that. One of the things I think we're very bad at doing is asking for help as generally a human species, and especially us gardeners. We feel we can do it all. But sometimes we do need a bit of help. And there's no shame in that. And that's something I really want to get out of tonight. Nicola, I've employed all sorts of people to do work. I get very disappointed when they don't do what I've asked them to do or taking a piss. Now, that is true. I mean, there are times when you ask people to do something and they don't do it the way you want to do it. And there may be reasons from their professional perspective why that is. Often they're right. But when they take the piss, now, are we talking about how much they charge? Because I would never feel that somebody is taking a piss with what they charge, providing they do a good job, providing they do the right job. But if they're standing around not doing very much, that does take the piss. She goes on to say, I had two different lots of tree fell, cypress firs, 60 foot tall, is that? 26 across the bottom. Bloody tall. That's pretty thick, pretty thick. And then Hargrave says, I have some huge fir trees that need topping out every couple of years. Too high for me, so a man comes in. Yeah, absolutely. The privet was at least 8 foot tall and nearer 10 foot at the top in the garden. There we go. 5 large sycamores, tree surgeon team, £2,000. Ouch. That's a lot of money, isn't it? A lot of money. Hargrave says, I also got a bloke in to pot in some big French drains to reclaim some garden that became a swamp every winter. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? Because to me, putting in French drains sounds like a really simple thing to do. You dig a hole, put the drains in, and you backfill it. But I'm pretty certain there's more to it than that. I think you've probably got to get the ground so it actually runs away. The drains actually run away. So there's probably a lot of time and patience that goes involved, something that I'm not very good at, being patient. But please do tell me more. Jenny says, hello, I'm popping in as we have a last minute change of plan tonight. I was meant to be out for dinner, never mind. Hope you are all well. Lovely to see you, Jenny. Excuse me, hope you are well too. Oh, yawning, I don't know why. Stuart says, if you have trouble with a tree, it's always best to get an expert. I kept all the logs to sell to help pay for the tree removal. Yeah, I mean, I'm planning when this tree does come down, I'm planning that we'll dry it out and we'll burn the wood ourselves. But I totally agree. Getting an expert in when it comes to especially tree felling, I've said time and time again, it's a dangerous thing. I mean, I reckon this tree at the top is about 4.5, 5 meters tall. It's way, way, way above me. It's almost as tall as our house, so pretty damn tall. And I don't do heights. I don't do heights at all. So getting up there is a real struggle. What else have we got? Turbo Stream says, I'm thinking of a new shed. I would like a shed from where you got yours from, but it's self-assembly, which I can't do on my own. I got my shed from Power Sheds, and they were really, really good. Good prices, good delivery. I couldn't fault them. Good service, good care. I could not fault them, but they are a two-man job to put a shed together. So you do need a buddy or someone to come and help you with that. And Nicholas says, had a guide to put my new chicken runs kennel panels that I bought from them. Excellent, excellent. Adrian says, any normal size tree I can get from the ground, I would tackle. I have 3 petrol chainsaws. So when it comes to trees, yeah, again, if I can get to it from ground level, I'm absolutely fine. Maybe even a step up, then I'm fine. It's the taller trees. Like I said, this elm tree was so tall. It was above my greenhouse and shed as well. So there was a risk of damage. But if it's ground level, I'm fine with it. Chainsaws for me are an incredibly dangerous thing. You've got a spinning blade that spins, and you easy to get caught up into it, get caught in it. And when they spin, they don't bite, do they? They take the chunks out a chainsaw would do. So they are a very, very, very dangerous tool. Jenny says, I have a wonderful gardener who comes once a month. I cannot physically manage without him. He is a star. He gardens with me, not just for me, completely understands my limitations. So for those that don't know, Jenny does have limitations due to health of what she can really do in her garden. So employing a gardener does help with that. You know, as I said, there's no right or wrong way to garden. Digwell says, I might employ some nefarious characters to sort the ash trees out in the garden next to me. They have died back, but they will do nothing about them. Yes, reported to Tree Alert. Yeah. So, as you know, my ash tree does have what looks like dieback. I think you spotted it, Digwell, in one of my videos. And my neighbour said something about getting it. They weren't complaining. They were just asking. You know, we get on well with our neighbours, and they planned to get rid of it anyway. It was just finding the time. But the limitation has always been it's so tall. Should have stopped it before it got too tall. And it's not easy. Not easy. So that being said, my neighbour, they had somebody come around and chop down a pine tree they had at the end of their garden. So I should have gone with their people. Nicholas says, now having help with paving and new veg beds, but I'm there mostly because otherwise they go off on the wrong tangent. How do they go off on the wrong tangent? Explain a bit more about that, please. Turbo Stream says, I need a low wall building to undo the awful job that was previously done when my mum was alive. I can't decide what I want, so it will wait until I decide. Actually, talking of that, so building of walls. I've never built a wall in my life, but I did consider building brick vegetable beds and building those out of brick. I never built anything out of brick in my life, so I thought that might be something that I have to employ somebody to do, pay somebody in to come and lay a load of bricks for. I'm sure it's something I could learn, but yeah. Adrian says, tree surgeons are very expensive. My chap will get a telehandler or something like that. Yeah, telehandler would be useful, very useful. Nigel, Muddy Boots. I've used a tree surgeon to remove a large maple tree from my back garden. Used a stump grinder to get the large base out. He supplies our allotment on a regular basis with wood chip. Great stuff, great stuff. In fact, stump grinder is probably something I would need when I finally get this tree out. Or I'm going to do my trick, where I place a compost bin over the stump and use that to rot away at the stump just by using it as a compost bin. It's my trick that has worked well for me over the years. Nicholas has had a gate post and a field gate put in by a really great guy. Rebecca has joined. Evening, Richard. Good evening to you, Rebecca. Hope you are well. Bally Singing says the tree felling is the easy bit. It's the stump removal that's the problem. The stump removal for me is not the problem. That's easy. I can do that quite easily with just a compost bin, and it takes a while, but it works. But the tree felling for me is the hard bit. It really is. That's the difficult bit. Ash is very good for burning wood. Exactly. It's going to be our heating for next year. And Hargrave, the French drains had 20-inch diameter pipes in them. He had to hire a digger to dig out the trenches. And yes, you are right. Runoff angles are important and rules about what you can connect into. Good point, actually. I wouldn't have even thought about what I'm connecting into, but good point. I would have just got them into a soak away, but good point. Rob, that's funny. I don't know why I can't see you in the chat. That happens sometimes with Rob. People can't see him, weirdly. Turbo Stream, the trouble is finding builders who follow your instructions. At my previous house, a builder built a wall so that I couldn't shut my garage door. He had to come back the next day and demolish it. Again, I've not had that problem, but I hear it quite a bit. What else have we got? It's all right. It was Gary. I'm thinking about getting some help with my lawn. I've had a go, but not quite got it right. Patchy, uneven, etc. I'd rather have veg beds at home, but for my phase of life with young family, we need a lawn. Yeah, again, your garden has to represent your family and what's going on at home. But again, if you want a nice lawn and you're not quite getting it, you may need certain people, you may need certain advice, you may need to get somebody in. That is what you're paying for, isn't it? When you employ somebody, you're paying for their experience, their knowledge, not necessarily what you could do yourself. Anna Jones, evening all. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. Turbo Stream says, my garden is surrounded by tall trees, hence why I struggle to grow anything but weeds. Well, tall trees means you're in shade, so you just have to find shade-loving plants that will grow personally, but they'll grow well there. What have we got? A lot of people saying hello. Best to leave Rob switched off him. Dear, what have we got? Jenny says, Turbo, what do you like to grow under the trees? Nicola, I've been cutting lower branches of a cypress conifer with an electric pruner shears. I do have a small chainsaw. I use a chainsaw, have a chainsaw top, leggings, helmet, gloves, so wear the right gear. I mean, that again, when you're hiring somebody, they have to have the right gear. They have to have all the PPE, which is also part of why you're hiring them. I wouldn't put myself in risk, so I wouldn't expect anybody that I've employed to do anything unsafe either. Forgot about ash dieback. Had to get a big ash taken down as well because of that. It's nasty stuff. It's all over the place here. Dutch elm disease is the other one. It is a big problem. It's wiping out a lot of the ash trees, certainly in the south coast here. But at the same time, we need it. We've got to. We need to take action. We've got to reduce this ash dieback down. Nicola, it's great to have all the wood chip after felling. Made fantastic compost in 3 years. Yeah. Again, it depends on. I think a lot of the wood chip comes from when they run it through the wood chipper, which is something we do as well. Not so much a wood chipper, shredder. And then the larger branches are going to be our kindling and our bits like that. If Roxy doesn't get to them first and chew on them first, of course. Jenny, Tam Extreme says to Jenny, the trees are in the other garden, so I've been planting a small woodland area to cope with the low light levels. Bally soon, not the trees I felled will cost you a fortune. Buying enough compost bins, Richard. Fair enough. That's fair enough. It's for me, I've just found, and I think I should explain what I do here. So I've done this several times, and it works pretty quickly most of the time. So if I chop down a tree, you're left with that stump. What I usually find, if you leave that stump, then you start to get little branches start to grow at little water shoots, I guess they would be, which then produce leaves, and that continues feeding the roots. So I put a compost bin over it. That way, if anything does start to grow, it's not going to get any light. It's going to start killing itself off. But then I also fill it up with compost material, wet, damp compost material, which makes that tree root very sort of damp, and it starts to rot out that tree root, and it works. It does work. It works with it most of the time. Within a year, I find that the tree root has rotted out enough that it comes out really, really easy. But sometimes it may take a bit longer. I've got one on the allotment, the elder tree, that's been covered up for over a year, and it's still not quite there. But we keep on it. We will keep on it, and it will go. Jenny says tree stumps left in the ground and various size drills drilled into them make fantastic bee and bug hotels. Deadwood offers habitat for a lot of wildlife. You can also grow mushrooms in them. But you do need the tree to be dead, the roots to be dead, otherwise they come back. And that's always the risk. I have a small woodland 2 turbo, love it. Some of my shrubs, I've cut the lower branches off and planted bulbs, hellebores. I'm just waiting for the 2,000 plus snowdrops to show through. Buddy said PPE for tree cutting doesn't stop you getting injury. It reduces the injury that might happen. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. It's like anything, isn't it? PPE is important. We have to wear it in whatever we're doing. But at the same time, we have to remember that it's not foolproof. It just helps reduce the risk. Did Nicola, my ash have dieback but cut back hard. They aren't free of it, but much healthier. Yeah, good burning, good wood burning, ash. Good for wood burning. What have we got? Jenny says, Kew Gardens have said young ash trees are now showing resilience to ash dieback. Great news. I've heard that. I did hear that, actually. They are starting to get some resilience, some sort of way that they're surviving with ash dieback. So it's a good sign. It's a good sign. Jenny says, I'm sure it will look amazing. Turbo. Nicola, I'm still chopping smaller branches from conifers from 5 years ago, have bigger branches that need cutting down with a chainsaw or industrial splitter. Quicker to just use copper nails. Does that actually work? Here's my question there when it comes to copper nails for removing roots, removing stumps. Does copper nails actually work? Because I've always found that or felt that to be a bit of an urban myth. But you tell me. Nigel says, I've removed large cherry and plum trees on the allotment. Used a chainsaw to remove the main branches, but leave the trunk at a good length to use as a lever. Yeah, I mean, with cherry and plums, that's pretty easy. Or they don't get that huge unless they're very, very old, isn't it? My ash is, thick as me. So there's no way that's coming out. But yeah, enough leverage. What I once did with some privet in my old house, neighbour had a 4x4. We cut it down and then we just tied the stump around some rope and used a 4x4 to pull it out, and it came out the ground like that. So quick. Nicola, I have some self-sown ash in my rear meadows. I hope they won't get the dieback. Keep an eye on them. Keep an eye. Ash does grow very, very quick. Nigel says, dig a wide trench and destroy the roots using a mattock. Hard work, but we'll get them out eventually. The trouble is the roots actually go under paving slabs and into my neighbours, or my ash, on the side of my ash. So it's not quite easy to get them out. I've got about that much gap. It's where it grows to dig out. Not much. Turbo Stream says, I built a small wall between two fence posts using some old bricks to satisfy my urge to build a wall. It was quite easy to do. Excellent. Idaho has joined. She says, hello. Hello to you. Lovely to see you. So, yeah, have you ever employed anybody to do some gardening work for you? Digwell says, the number of nails is up to you. However, more copper nails gives you better and faster results. So spacing the nails closely is recommended. 10 nails for a 2-foot diameter tree. Okay. That's probably what I would need, 10 nails. But yeah. Jenny says, a friend removed a long row of huge conifers. I had loads of fresh wood chippings. Garden loved it. He cut them down himself and hired an industrial chipper. Tree surgeon, over £1,000. They're not cheap, tree surgeons, are they? They're not cheap at all. But please do let us know if you have, or anything else you have hired somebody to do in your garden. As I said, I think we as gardeners, we tend not to want to hire anybody. I think that's because we can sometimes be, we're practical people. We want to do everything ourselves. For example, my neighbour, lovely neighbour, she's on her own now. She used to have a husband who they split up, and then her son was there who always confused me. He runs his own gardening business, but they would hire somebody to cut the grass and just remove a few weeds each week in their garden. Always struck me as weird. I don't think it happens anymore, but again, just doing a bit of gardening, just cutting the grass and what have you seems, for me, I couldn't understand why people would do that regularly. There are times, obviously, when you need to, but I guess it's because I'm that practical person. I want to get on and do it. Turbo Stream says, I've not employed anyone to do gardening as such, i.e. every month cutting the grass, etc. Yeah, exactly. Digger says, best idea is not let the sapling grow in the first place. Neglect in haste, repeat at leisure. That's exactly what I did with that ash tree. I saw it grow when it was young. It kept saying, I've got to cut that out. And I didn't. And it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it's too big to manage. I should have done it much sooner. Oh, just missed some. But Nicholas says, I want the saplings degraded to pot trees in the rear meadow. Basically, it says, don't know the science, but drilling holes with a flat drill bit and pouring Epsom salts kills tree stumps. I've heard that. I have heard that as well as sort of putting what was it? Like smouldering charcoal, which worries me. But I've heard that you can remove stumps by putting smouldering charcoal on top as well. But I always think it's going to cause a fire or something that I don't like the idea of. But all these ideas are good ideas. As long as they're natural, then I'm all for it where necessary. Now, as I said, there is 2 questions I'm asking today. The first subject is what we're discussing at the moment. The second subject that I'm going to be asking is, are you growing anything different this year? Which we'll get into in a little moment. Nicholas says, well, salt kills plants on weeds, so makes sense on Epsom salts. Yeah, I mean, Epsom salts, as my understanding, isn't the same as salts or salt. It's I can't think what it's called now, but yeah. Anna Jones says, covering a tree stump with a compost bin containing friendly fungi also keeps bad fungi like honey fungus out. Nobody wants that in their garden. No, that devastates trees, doesn't it? That honey fungus can literally run in and devastate any trees. Right, this feels like a good opportunity to go to, what should we go to? Let's go to this week's mission, which was something that you set for me last week. This week's mission was for me to go to a garden centre and have a cup of coffee. So as you can see, I'm in the car. We're going to head on into, not my closest garden centre, but a garden centre that's fairly close to where I live. And it's certainly one of my favourite. Let me go show you why, and we'll go grab a cup of coffee at the same time. So as you can see, car park, nice easy access. And we're going through this door here into this garden centre. Straight away, lots of plants, including of course potatoes. Not a bad price. I've already ordered my potatoes, but they're not a bad price at all. Pots, need some pots, more potatoes. Anyway, let's go get something to eat. Morning. Breakfast menu. See what we can have. So there we go. Got my cup of coffee. I'm in the garden centre cafe, just waiting for my breakfast, which I'll show you what the breakfast looks like when it. Well, the breakfast has arrived. We've got sausages, bacon, beans, poached egg, tomato, hash browns and toast. See how good it tastes. Well, I've got to say, that was actually a really nice breakfast. Let's go have a look around the shop. Okay, well I've left the garden centre now. I really enjoyed that breakfast, I have to say. Not my normal type of thing I do. I realised I'm not the type that sits around and goes out for food. I tend to eat at home, got things to do. But I did enjoy it nonetheless. Got myself a new plant pot and a few bird feeders. So, well, but is that mission accomplished or mission failed? Let me know in the comments. Now back to the studio. Indeed, is that mission accomplished or mission failed? I think it was Rebecca that set that mission last week, and I'm quite glad she did. It was nice popping to a garden centre and having some breakfast and a cup of coffee. Not my normal thing, but that's the joys of always being in a rush, always having things to do. Don't get the chance to sit down and take things in. As I said, that's not my closest garden centre. It's one of my favourites because they don't tend to do much in the way of rubbish stuff, or what I class as rubbish stuff. It is very much a garden centre for gardeners, and that's why I went there. We've got closer ones that I could also go to one day and show you what they like. They generally don't like cameras in there, though. Anyway, Digwell says Epsom salt contain magnesium and sulfur. While these nutrients plants need to survive, if used in excess, they can kill plants and weeds. But if they're left in the soil, that means the soil isn't going to be any good for until it dilutes down, I guess, as well. Epsom salt is able to draw moisture out of everything it comes into contact with. I guess that's why it feels good when you use it in the bath. Bathing salts, isn't it? Muddy Puddles Farm. I'm growing sweet potatoes as I now have the space. The first slips are showing. Lucky you. I haven't done any sweet potatoes yet, but I've always struggled to get sweet potatoes to go, or to get them started. I think we did something last year. I just cannot get them to sprout at all. What's your secret? How did you get the sweet potatoes to start? Turbo Stream says I succumbed this week and sowed a few onion seeds I found on my Veg Grower podcast stash. Ryansburg, I think it would be right. I think, yeah, Ryansburg. I've got to admit, my my onions that I sowed on Boxing Day haven't germinated yet. I'm starting to get a little bit worried about them. Nigel says Epsom salt in magnesium sulfate. Common salt is sodium chloride. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. That breakfast looks lush. It was good, actually. A retired sailor like me is an old salt, says Digwell. Old salt. Jenny says, can someone set me this mission? There you go. That's your mission. Go into a garden centre and get a cup of coffee. Digwell says, now you know why I like garden centre breakfasts. It was a nice breakfast. It was 16 quid for that breakfast and a cup of coffee, though. And is that good value or not these days? I don't know. £16. Money Puddles says, mission accomplished. Next week, you'll be back to buy candles. I will not be buying candles. Will not buy candles. I can't stand the things, especially the smelly things, personally. Mission accomplished and glad you enjoyed it. Ballysin says, the sausages should have formed a barrier to stop the beans from touching the eggs. Interesting take on that. I've never really thought about it. Mission accomplished, says Turbo. I think we all set the mission. It was a bit of a joint thing, wasn't it? It was a bit of a joint thing, as if I recall, just to wind me up. But actually ended up quite enjoying it. Breakfast demolished, says Nigel. Indeed. Idaho says, I haven't hired anybody to do any garden, and I did hire a young man to help construct some raised beds. I used to do it all, but my doctor says I shouldn't be lifting things that weigh so much. Fair enough. Margaret, hello. We have had Ishmael for many years to do jobs we can't do. He cuts a hedge which is 14 foot tall, and lately he has used his van to pull out a huge laurel in the front. Was the laurel down towards the side? I'm trying to think where the laurel was. But yeah, I know, obviously, I know Margaret's hedge, and that is at height. Yeah, again, would need to get somebody in to do that. Digwell says, drill 1-inch holes in the stump and pour in the Epsom salt in simples. Excellent. I'll try that. Idaho, I have a riding lawnmower, so I mow all the grass, I pull all the weeds, I plant all the plants, etc. So I guess here's the question then. When is a good point when you feel you need to employ somebody? What do you think is a good point when you feel you need to employ somebody? For me, it's when I know I know my limits. I know when I don't feel safe doing something, that's when I need somebody in. Gary says, last year I got sweet potato sprouts eventually, but far too late. This year I've started early too. Interesting. I have to keep an eye on that. Gary says, my December onions have not germinated either. Not just me then. Not just me. Turbo Stream says, I put the onions in the airing cupboard for a few days till they germinated. I am thinking I might need to add some heat to my onions to get them to germinate. That might make all the difference. £16 FFS, being polite. My local one is £9.95. That for me is a reasonable price for a breakfast. Local calf, it's sort of looking at that sort of price, but is it reasonable? I mean, it was a good breakfast, to be fair. Prices on your menu look comparable to here, says Idaho. Fantastic. Turbo Stream says you could buy a 4 candles. Money says, I bought organic sweet potatoes, soaked them for an hour, buried them about 3/4, kept the compost moist. It's taken since the beginning of December to get shoots. I'm going to try that. Or 2 candles. 2 candles. This week, gardening place for non-gardening reason. Next week, non-gardening place for gardening reason. It's the mission. #mission. If you want to set a mission for next week, #mission, and it all goes into the drawer. I haven't seen any yet. Same with the cookalong. Digwell says the Laurel was next to the Hardy in most movies. Yeah. Or cartoons is what I remember them from. Oh, fork candles. Past my limits, or I need someone to help, which helps with my mental health when seeing things seem too much. That's when it's past. Nicola's saying she'll employ somebody when it's past her limits or when she needs help. Nigel says employ someone if you need specialist tools that you do not own, or if the time that it would take you is not economical. All good points. All good points. Turbo Stream says my previous onion efforts in winter ended in failure, so perhaps the heat was needed. I just need to keep them alive this time. Digwell says I will make it my mission to go to a garden centre and film a breakfast this week. Please do, Digwell. Please do. I think this could be. Perhaps we should compare garden centre breakfasts each week. Who's got the best breakfast for the best price? What do you say to that? What do you say to that? Mission for everyone. Compare garden centre breakfasts. Rob says, when we go on holiday for 4 or 6 weeks, my mate looks after our home and garden and allotment. I do pay him. Actually, and thought about that. When I go away, don't not so much pay him, but my brother looks after the house. But yeah. Gary says, hashtag mission, rescue the worst looking edible plant from your local supermarket. Well, it's on the list. If it wins, great. I just can't think of a supermarket selling any edible plants at the moment, but could do it in a garden centre, I guess. Idaho says, I only hire somebody when they ask, when the task is too much heavy lifting. Fair enough. And some company did well. Digwell says, did you sow your onions in the 49 cell agralian or the buster seed? In neither. It was in the Charles Dowding set. It was in the Charles Dowding set. Nigel says, send Brecky photos in. Yeah, please do. Send Brecky photos in from the garden centre. We need to see them now. That is the perfect explanation, Nigel. I agree. That is the perfect explanation. Digwell says, no. The kale can stay there. Muddy Puddles, that's fair, Rob. You take care and look after our pubs when you are on holiday. Edible plant can be herbs in a pot. Good point. Nigel, is the silicon gel poison to put in a tree stump hole? Oh, yeah, that's a good point. There is that poison, isn't it? Silica gel that you put into tree stump holes that's meant to kill them off as well. Yeah. Gary says that was the kind of thing I was thinking of, Nicola. Well, we will see. It's gone into the drawer. Don't forget, if you want to suggest a cookalong or a mission, then hashtag mission with your mission or hashtag cookalong. It all goes in the drawer at the end of the show. So, second question I want to ask today is, what are you growing this year that you've never grown before? What vegetable or plant have you never grown before that you're going to give it a try this year? I'm trying cardoons. I meant to grow them last year, never got around to it. So I'm going to try growing cardoons from seed this year to see if I get on with them. I've grown, what have I grown before? I've grown globe artichokes, which cardoons are very, very closely related. But in fact, they look identical, just a bit smaller. But when it comes to cardoons, instead of eating the choke, the flower bud, you actually eat the stems once they're blanched. So I'm giving that a go this year, something I've never tried before. Added to that, not necessarily a plant, but it's something I'm hoping to do this year if I can get the right spot, if the allotment will allow me to do it, or I can do it at home. And you will hear this on the podcast tomorrow, because in tomorrow's podcast, I've interviewed a beekeeper and we're looking at keeping our own bees and producing our own honey, which is something I've wanted to do for a while, just never felt I had the right place for it. So 2 things I'm hoping to produce this year that I've never produced before: cardoons and honey. Margaret says, yes, under the bedroom window full of laurel. Yep, I remember now. Rob says, sorry, that was from Muddy Puddles Farm. No problem. Idaho says, I'm not growing anything new this year. Fair enough. Rob says, my onions all germinated in 7 days this year. I think it was too cold in my shed, so I might just bring them in and see how they get on. Mangal Wurzel, says Kate. Interesting. A lot of people are growing Mangal Wurzel at the moment. I think She Grows Veg has really sort of highlighted this interesting vegetable. I'm not sure it's something I personally would be doing, but I'm interested to see how everyone gets on with it nonetheless. Nicola says, I want to grow melons and loofah. Well worth growing both of those. I've grown them several times myself. Melons, got to grow them. Got to grow melons, haven't you? And loofah are just good for having in the garden anyway. Muddy Boots says, not Muddy Boots, Muddy Puddles. Celeriac. I haven't grown it as I have avoided crops that take up space that long. Space was precious before. You'd love celeriac. It is one well worth giving the space over to and letting grow. Gary says, my children love kiwi, so I'm thinking of looking into getting a kiwi tree. Yep, I've got a red one and a green one. Doesn't produce much in the way of fruit yet, but well worth it nonetheless. It's an interesting plant. More of a climber than a plant as well than a tree. Jenny says, nothing new planned, but I haven't finished seed shopping yet, so that may change. Always the way. Nicola says, if I can get the seeds for loofah, you can get them from Premier Seeds Direct or from So Simply Seeds. Digwell says, one popular channel might do well to actually grow some vegetables. No names mentioned, boyo. I wonder who you mean there. Got me wondering there. Nigel, not new, but 3 or 4 different melon varieties. Excellent. I think this is one of the troubles, isn't it? I grow or try and grow lots of different varieties of various tomatoes, chilies, but it can take over. You can end up running out of space if you're not careful. So it's always good to try different varieties. Melons particularly can take up quite a bit of space, but if you can get outdoor varieties, even better. Gary says, Richard, bees would be perfect for you. Can't wait to hear about it. Tomorrow's podcast is a long one. I will warn you that, because the conversation was just so good. And I'm really inspired to keep bees. I've been offered bees for my hive. Do it. You've got the space there, Nicola. Bees would give you honey. Of course they would. And beeswax. But you've got the space there. Why not use it? Scott says, I want to try sowing and growing rhubarb this year. Give it a try. So easy to grow from seed. I've sown some rhubarb today, funny enough, as part of the supporters club. Really, really good one. Really good one to grow from seed. Jenny says, Gary, a great kiwi is a variety called Jenny. Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. And there's another one, a red one that I've got. I can't think what the variety is called. What is Mangal Wurzel, says Gary. Sounds like something from a rolled dial book. It's a very old vegetable. It looks like a bit like an ugly turnip, I guess, but much larger. It used to generally be grown as fodder crop, but it's gained a bit of popularity in recent years. I've not tried it, to be honest. Perhaps I will try it next year, but I've not tried eating it. I don't know much about it. I don't think it's meant to taste very good, but people were making wine out of it. But they grow big. They do grow very, very big. Loofah, take up too much greenhouse room just to get a back scrubber. So the secret with loofah, actually, they do need somewhere warm. But what I found with loofah is you can actually get fruits from them that taste quite nice. You pick them when they're young and they taste quite nice. And you can pick quite a few, and then you leave some to go old to get that back scrubber, that sponge from them. So 2 crops from 1 load is the way I look at it with loofah. Jenny says, Scott, you'll get loads. Great plant to grow. Idaho says, I had rhubarb self-sow a couple of years ago, so I have had several small seedlings I need to transplant. I'm excited about that. Excellent, excellent. Turbo Stream says, I'm not planting anything new this year, but the new onion variety. I am actually thinking of growing less to have a year off. If you're going to have a year off, I recommend sowing green manures just on your allotment, you get your garden, just so it's not going to waste. It's putting some nutrients and some stuff into it. It just doesn't mean your garden's being wasted for the year. It's doing some good and really making it better for following years. Kiwi is not a tree. No, it's a type of, it's a climber. It's a climber. A vine. Recommended celeriac variety is Asterix. Excellent, excellent. Looking forward to sowing all these. Rob says, I need to get some 60 cell heavy duty trays. Anyone has where is the best to get some from? The 60 cells. No, I was going to say the Charles Dowden ones, but I think they're very expensive, but will last quite a while. But you're paying for the name a lot. Paying for the name, unfortunately. Rebecca says, I had nothing new planned either this year, but you've all got me going now. It's always the way. This is why I like having these conversations sometimes, because it gives me ideas and it gets me inspired. Like Mangle Wurzel is another one I keep thinking, do I do Mangle Wurzel or not? Turbo Stream says, I think he is growing for shows. He's made another new channel. Oh, don't know that. Digwell, a Chacocha giant Bolivian. Did a smaller one, but it tasted awful. Interesting. I've not heard of that, actually, but I heard something similar. Where were we? Sorry, I just read a comment and I suddenly thought I'd missed something. Jenny says, giant Bolivian are nice stuffed. I've never heard of them. What are they? Gary says, any tips on getting large celeriac? I've only managed to get small roots and is now the right time to harvest. I would say it is probably about the right time to harvest, but it's also about the right time to start sowing celeriac. They do take a long time, 9 months to a year to really grow. Lots of moisture as well to keep them growing. Other than that, a good nutrient-rich, good, I can't think of the word, nutrient-rich compost, plenty of organic matter dug in or whatever you do. But yeah. I've just sown giant Prague. Maybe I need to order more seed. Absolutely. Digwell says, Mango Wurzel is cattle fodder, but some humans like to eat it too. I've never eaten it, so I'm going to hold my opinion on it for a while. It does grow really large roots if that's your type of thing. And I know people are making wine out of it, which is meant to taste nice. I'm not a wine drinker, so I have to take people's words on that. Nicola says, want for washing up, sponge for kitchen, common yellow with green scour, give microplastic on your plates and cutlery. Oh, for loofahs. Yeah. Again, Nicola, you've got the space. Why not use it? Why not make the most out of it? 60 cell are tiny. Which 60 cells are you using? Charles Dowden are nearly £8 each. That's cheap, actually. They're normally around £12 for the 30 cells, I think, unless I'm thinking of a different one I haven't seen. Nicholas says, I want peach and nectarine in the new polytunnel. I have 6 by 50 meters I can pull up. I love my peach tree. It produces some fantastic white peaches. I'm going to add some fresh composting in about it in the next couple of weeks. But I love fresh peaches. Love peaches anyway. Yeah, good choice there. Rob says, I use them for my flower seeds and main crop onions. Ian has joined. I've grown mangel wurzels. They are massive and gave them to a local farmer for fodder food for his cows. As I understood, they are used a lot for fodder food, but people are eating them more and more and more. Yeah. I have trouble popping the seedlings out of the CD60s. Are they the same size as the CD, the ones I've got that I made that thing up? Let me grab it for you. Oh, I can't get it. That dibber tray up for popping them out. Are they the same as that, or are they smaller? Let me know. I use a big pencil, says Rob. And Gary says, off topic, is there a Veg Grower Podcast Gardener's World live spring meetup this year? I will need to book some annual leave to go and want to know which days are best to go. So I will be going to the Veg Grower, we'll be going to Gardener's World live. Probably, it could be the Friday or the Saturday. Probably going to be the Saturday. I'm not sure yet. I'm still deciding. I'm not doing a show garden there now. The people I were doing it with have decided they got too much on their plate. I'm not complaining because I've got too much on my plate as it is. So, but if anybody is going to the spring fair, would like to meet up, we would have to find out the day when everybody wants to go. It's at Bewley. It's the bank holiday weekend in May. So if anybody is going to the spring fair, what days are you thinking of going? I don't know. I didn't know about the plastic scrubbers. So yeah, loofah, you produce your own sponge. You can use that for scrubbing your plates and stuff. In fact, it's making me think we definitely should grow loofahs this year. Nigel says, I tend to harvest my celeriac from November onwards. Left much longer, I found the slugs damage them. There we go. There we go. It's very true. Very true. CD60s are £7.56. Are they? Where from, Digwell? Where from, Digwell? Let me know. Let me know where. Turbo Stream says, to Rob, have a search for Alexa Garden Supplies. They do a range of sale trays. I've used them a few times. Excellent. Ballycillian says, I grew a peach tree outside Peregrine, grew fruits well, and I'm well north Belfast. It's certainly possible to grow peach tree outside. The reason that my peach tree goes indoors over winter, into the greenhouse over winter, the reason for that is to reduce rain landing on the leaves or landing on the stalks and everything and causing peach leaf curl. So it stays in a greenhouse from November to May to reduce the chance of peach leaf curl. But, excuse me, the rest of the year it's outside and we get lovely, absolutely lovely fruits from it. What have we got? What have we got? Muddy Puddle says, I could grow mangel wurzels for the pigs. Kevin would love them. I don't know if they eat them, but give it a try. I'm sure they would. Have a look at Oakland's Garden for 60 cell, much cheaper than Lord's Charles. Would they make the bacon taste funny? Turbo Stream, the mystery YouTuber lived in London and moved back to Wales. I don't know who you're talking about at all. Yeah. I wonder who that is. I'm trying to figure it out. Anyway, let's go to another video for this week, which is this week's cookalong.
Well, good morning, everybody. I've just finished baking this week's cookalong, which is, of course, a loaf of bread, as suggested by Digwell Green Fingers, who's, funnily enough, just made a very similar video on his YouTube channel. Now, I have to admit, I cheated a little bit. I usually don't have much success when it comes to baking loaves of bread. So I actually brought a loaf pack, which has just got all the ingredients mixed into it. I went for a very simple white loaf, and I'm quite happy with that. All I did is I poured that into a bowl with a bit of oil, mixed it together, and then added some lukewarm water, mixed it together to make the dough. I then spent 10 minutes, which is very boring for me, kneading the dough to make it nice and elastic. And I noticed you can tell when it's elastic because it sticks to your fingers less and less. I then took that dough mix, placed it, or put cling film over the top and placed it in my airing cupboard overnight, where the following morning I got up to let the dog out and I pulled it out and the dough had certainly doubled in size. We punched it back, put it into a loaf tin which had been greased or sprayed with a bit of oil to make sure it doesn't stick. Put it back in the airing cupboard for another hour, then we placed it in the oven, and this is what we ended up with. And this is my loaf of bread. Now, what I like to do to tell if it's ready, it's still warm, but when you pull it out, you tap it, and if it sounds hollow, you know it is ready. What we should do, just to make sure, there we go, that's nicely risen loaf of bread. I'm quite happy with that. So we're going to take that end, see what it tastes like. Absolutely amazing. Somebody that doesn't eat much bread, that is really, really good. That's a good strong 9.5 out of 10. I can't fault it. Well, I can. I think it is slightly doughy in places, but I'm not worried by that. Thank you so much. Back to the studio.
Yeah, so I don't eat much bread as a general rule, but that was rather nice, I have to say. Yeah, I mean, I did cheat. I did cheat, as I said, and you can probably tell. I had it rising in the airing cupboard overnight. I got up in the morning, still in my dressing gown, and prepared it for the next bit before cooking. But yeah, it was nice. It was nice. Like I said, I don't eat much bread, so it's a bit of a waste. So I've had a bacon sandwich for tea tonight just to try and use up the bread. Digwell says, container wise, Charles Dowding CD16 long life propagation tray, 60 cells, rigid construction and dimensionally stable, £7.56 including VAT. I've had a quick look on container wise. If you include postage and packaging, it comes to £11.54, but on Amazon I can get them including postage and packaging for £10.49. I've got Amazon Prime. So if you want to save £1, Amazon might be the better place to go. Saw them ones did well, but too expensive for me. Thumbs up. Tabo Stream says 4 60 cell trays from £7.50 from Elixir. There we go. I've never heard that. Was that the Wolves tracksuit you were wearing, Richard? No, it was Rocky Balboa dressing gown. I've had for years, absolutely years. Stuart says, really sorry, have to go again as my infection's still not very good. Hopefully back to next week. You take care, Stuart. Lovely to see you. All the best. Come on, you boogies. Is that it? Is that the football thing? That bread sounds crusty. Well done. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice. I don't eat much bread these days, but yeah. It is nice. I mean, fresh bread is nicer than standard bread, isn't it? Pitch battles. I'm talking about football. There, as you know, I don't follow much football, so you're speaking a different language sometimes when it comes to football. So coming back to, is anybody else growing anything that they've never grown before this year? Has anybody doing something a little bit different? For me, the idea of keeping honeybees is really exciting me at the moment. I had this conversation with Mark from Buzzing to Beekeeping, and he's going to be on the podcast every month, just sharing with us what you can be doing for beekeeping every month, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I really want to keep bees. The idea of, I love honey. I absolutely love honey, fresh honey, proper honey. It's very, very expensive these days, those, unfortunately. So the idea of keeping my own bees to produce my own honey is something I've honestly wanted to do for a long time. I just never felt I really have the space to do it. In particular, when you think of like places like my allotment, my garden, having bees there just didn't feel quite right. But I'm going to do it anyway now. Added to that, of course, keeping bees are going to help with the pollination of my fruits, which should lead us to having more and better fruits in theory. I mean, I'm pretty good with pollinators, but the more we have, the better it is going to be. The downsides, of course, getting stung. That doesn't fill me with much excitement, but honey at the end of the day, I absolutely love honey. Turbo Stream says, I freeze my homemade bread when I make it. That's an idea. That is an idea. And he goes on to say, we have beehives on our allotments. I've never seen the honey for sale, though. Local honey is supposed to be better for you, too. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have had local honey. It's meant to help with hay fever, but honey in itself has lots of medicinal purposes as well. I'm no doctor, so I tend to not try and advise on things like that, but I hear lots of people. Has anybody ever wanted to keep bees or thought about keeping bees themselves on their allotment or in their garden or anywhere like that? I think it's exciting. I think it's something we could do. Nicholas says, what about getting a flow hive, Richard? Less disturbance. Yeah, there is less disturbance, but they're very, very, very expensive. So, and I can get a beehive and all the gear for a very reasonable price to get started. Maybe in the future. Who knows? But I do actually think, on that note, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's related to what we're talking about. Bees, in some ways, I think it should be on every allotment. Just because, but allotments have quite a wide range of wildlife anyway. But people on allotments, I mean, when I say on every allotment, I don't mean every allotment plot on every allotment site. So that the bees are there, the honey's being produced, but they're pollinating all the plot holders' fruits as well. So I think more allotments need beehives on them in order to really get the best out of all the fruits, as well as encourage more pollinators, encourage more bees into our world, which I'm told we need more of. Digwell says, not me, too much of a commitment with bees. Yeah, I can see it being a commitment. I mean, I think when I asked Mark, he said about an hour a week. Well, I've got chickens and I've got the dogs, so another commitment on top of those isn't too much of a problem. It'd be when I go on holiday that we have to think about that. Nicola says, I've wanted to keep bees for 20 plus years. You should do it. You've got the space. You'll get producing something really quite quickly. In fact, you probably have more than one hive quite easily. Scott says, we have a beehive at work. The honey is amazing. I would love to keep bees, but I'm not great around them. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that scares me. I'm okay around bees, providing they don't sting me and everything. And that's when it can get a little bit scary. I think I would be going to try and do the bees the right way if we are to do that, though. It'll probably be like you tend to them last thing on the allotment so that they calm down when you leave. Nigel says, the amount of honey we use, it would not be beneficial. Even less time to do weeding. Yeah. See, I eat a lot of honey. I use honey a lot. I love honey. So it probably would pay off for us. Where was that comment? There? Ian says, if you like oranges, keep an eye out for calamine. It's a small orange tree. I got it from Aldi at £10 last year. I've had lots of tiny oranges off the plant, and now we have more growing back. See, my orange tree I have out in the garden. Or was it lemon tree? Lemon tree I have out in the garden. I didn't get indoors, and we've had a bit of a frost. It still seems okay, but the leaves aren't looking great. I'm just thinking it's going to be okay because they do benefit from a bit of a frost. But calamondine is also tasty, very tasty. I've eaten that a few times. Added to that, just to remind you, don't hashtag cookalong, hashtag mission. We've had one mission come in, but more would be good, as well as the cookalongs. Morgan Freeman has converted his ranch into a bee farm. Yeah, excellent, excellent. Muddy Puddles, I kept bees for years. I became more and more reactive to the stings, have clothes cut off because of the swelling. It's no fun. So sadly, I had to let them go. But if you keep bees, they are fascinating. Excellent, excellent. I love the idea of it. I really love the idea of keeping bees. Highgrade Gas says we have some beehives in the village. They have let me help once or twice. Really interesting. Yes, what I really want to find out is how it all works, how we do it, and more importantly, get honey, and beeswax as well, because I can see that being used on our tools for protecting our tools more and things like that. Beeswax, good use. Gary says, someone on my allotment keeps bees, but you wouldn't know because you don't see them all the time. That's kind of how I want to get mine, so that they're not disturbing anybody, but they are there. But they're, yeah. Hashtag cookalong, honey roast parsnips. So we've got one cookalong. Oh, no, we've got two cookalongs and one mission. Oh, Nigel's just come along with that. That's the second one that I didn't see. Hashtag cookalong, cook a dish with honey as the main ingredient. Absolutely. Digwell, the beehives on our site were removed after 3 years. Only 39 plots, yet 250 stings in that time. A few kids were quite ill. They should have all been set up in one area. My question there, so bees are everywhere. Let's face it, bees are everywhere. What caused people to get stung so much by the bees in that area? I agree they should be spread out. Were they aggressive bees or what? I don't know. Don't know. I mean, and I say that because how many times I've been out in the wild and I'm always around bees. I very rarely get stung unless I'm doing something stupid. Digra says, like in Turkey rather than amongst the plots. Like in Turkey rather than amongst the plots. Oh, okay. Having all the beehives in one area rather than amongst the plots. Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, our allotment plot is huge. And I think there could be areas where bees hives would go down very well. Or alongside the road. Alongside the road would work. Hashtag mission, find some local honey, says Scott. Excellent. And those cookalongs sound sweet. Excellent. Excellent. This feels like a good opportunity now to have a look. No, I tell you what, let's go to our rant and rave. Well, actually, I think I've already started talking about my rave. It's the idea of keeping bees, which has really excited me this week. I really like the idea of keeping bees. I've wanted to do it for a while, but now I really am eager to do it this year. Start producing my own honey, start producing my own beeswax, have my own pollinators. Just the idea of keeping bees is really, really exciting to me. It's definitely something I want to do, really want to do. Idaho says sometimes people wear lotions or creams that actually attract the bees to them. It could be true, actually. That's a very good point. Very good point indeed. Digwell says bees are everywhere, yes, but not 5,000 of them within 3 meters of the plot. Again, my understanding, talking to Mark, the beekeeper, is 5 meters away from any other plots would be good enough, which makes sense. 5,000 of them within 3 meters of a plot. Yeah. Turbo Stream says, no rave, but a rant about the weather since New Year. So blooming wet. Yeah, it has been wet since New Year, hasn't it? We would love a bit more. I mean, we have in the odd sunshiny day, and it's nice when that does happen. At the same time, we had a lack of rainfall last year. So getting this rain at the moment is needed. It's certainly filling up my water butts and making those more and more full for the year ahead, which is also what I want. Scott says, will you make your own hives, Richard? At first, probably not, but eventually, yes, if I decide to carry it on. But again, that all depends what happens. If it works out, if I can do it, that is. Be glad you didn't have the snow. Yeah, I didn't get any snow. We didn't get anything like that. We've just had rain and rain. Nigel says, a nearby parish-run allotment site has beehives. The hives have tall debris nets around them, which force the bees to fly higher when leaving the hives. Again, that's something I have been told about as well. So if I do keep bees, I will be doing that as well. You've seen my plot shots. Used to be 15 hives. I mean, that is too much. Granted, that 15 hives does sound too much for that. 1 or 2, maybe in the right location. I think, yeah. But if you do it for one, you got to do it for the other, I guess, is the other side of that. Rob says, our council does not allow you to keep beehives on the plots for health and safety. People could be allergic to the stings. I think that's a valid point. People could be allergic to the stings, but at the same time, bees are in the wild. There's no saying that the bee that stings you comes from a beehive. It could be a wild bee. I find that an interesting comment there. Very interesting. Ian says, as to bees, it's worth going to a club that will teach you and contact pest controllers as they get swarms and can let you have them. That's exactly what we're going to be doing, funny enough. I've booked myself onto a beekeeping course in May to start this whole process off and see how we're going to get on. Nigel says, hives not allowed on our site either. Yep. I mean, we was allowed hives on our site because somebody used to keep them. So I've got to double check if we can. If not, then I'm going to try and keep them at home. But it's got to be done, as I say, the correct way. Digwa says the 15 hives belong to the site owners and did make honey sold in the garden centre. Okay, that makes sense now, Digwell. So the garden centre had their own hives in their allotments. And so, yeah, it does make sense. It does make sense now. Termistream says, our beehives are in a wooded section fenced off from the plot holders. I only found out a few weeks ago. Lovely, lovely. But you've got to find out where they're selling this honey to make the most out of it. Ponds are all around, banned on many sites too. They're banned on my site, funny enough. And again, I don't agree with that for that same reason. Ponds are all around us. Water is all around us. People can fall into ponds just like they can get stung in bees, but they can also fall in rivers, things like that. It's very difficult, isn't it? It's very difficult to, I guess my point when it comes to the bees is that how can you blame the beekeeper for the bees stinging you when it could be anything, when it could be a wild bee? Ponds are banned on our sites. They're banned on ours. They're banned on ours too. And Idaho says, I had bees when I lived in a city, never had a problem, but new family came and the bees seemed to be attracted to one of the children. Not good. Ended up moving to a new location on 1 acre, no complaints. I just love the idea of bees and keeping and honey, keeping honey. Right, I tell you what, let's have a look at your photos. Oh, hang on, that's not quite works right. Let's bring this over here. Let's do that. Your photos. Have a look at those and see what they look like. Now, Steve has started off lots of chili seeds. He's using his Jiffy 7s that he often uses, and I think that's 8 different varieties of chilies being sown there. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Also, question, is that a Vitapod heated propagator, or what type of heated propagator is that? I'd be interested to know because I'm sort of looking for some new heated propagators. Kate, this is Chili Kate. Haven't seen her tonight, actually, but she's found some bargains at her local Hilliers. Hilliers often do some good bargains. I found when I used to travel around and see them all over the place, but I haven't been to a Hilliers for quite a while. I have to go and find one. Matt has also started some chilies off in his heater propagator. You can see they're just starting to show themselves. Looks great. Very, very pleased with that as well. Now, this is some humor from Nathan. He shared this picture, this, what's it called? Meme. How do farmers party? They turn up the beats. We do love a good pun in the Veg Grower podcast. Kate also found this jumper. Now, I really like this jumper. I really need this jumper. Apparently, it's been sold at Next. I'm going to go get one. I think everybody should get one of these. Garden tomatoes, grow your own. I think we should all be wearing those sort of jumpers with our line of work. Beddoes has been praying for ground to dry out soon. Otherwise, he says he's got to start hovering over the ground in order to work. I think we're all in the same boat. We do need some dry weather just to dry the ground out a little bit. So that is it from the photos. Please do keep sharing your photos. You can post them in our Facebook group, send to me via social media, or email me, richard@theveggrowerpodcast.co.uk. That's richard@theveggrowerpodcast.co.uk. Let me bring this screen back over here. And I saw there was a few comments coming in. Where were we? Where were we? So Nigel says, I suppose the restrictions are because the ground is owned by the council and may be subject to a claim, which is valid. It is very, very valid. And I've always said, you know, as much as I love my allotments, I don't own it. I have to do what I have to obey by the rules. I may not agree with them, but it's like anything. In this, I have my own bit of land. I have to go with those rules. So it's the same at home. I was worried about my neighbours, but I think we can do something about that. But health and safety is paramount. No one wants to get prosecuted. Bees, ponds, fires, etc., etc. Again, don't disagree at all. Don't disagree at all. It's all about being considerate. I think we've said this before. We've all got to be considerate. It's no good just, yes, I want to keep bees, but if my neighbours aren't happy and things like that, I have to rethink where I'm going to keep them if I do that. So things we have to think about. Idaho says, I enjoyed keeping bees and I enjoyed the honey, but lifting all the heavy boxes became too much for me. It's all the more reason to do it while I can then, isn't it? I guess. That is dead right, Nigel. It is all about health and safety and being considerate to your neighbours as well. Jenny says, Digwell, I had to fight for a pond on my old site. When chatting, they said a big drowning risk. I looked down at open water troughs and smiled. They agreed no worse than the troughs, but asked me to cover the pond to make it child safe. I used an old metal gate. Again, I don't disagree with that. Again, I think that's why ponds are banned on our allotment, because it is a drowning risk and things like that. So I understand it totally. Water troughs were all around the site for plotters to use. Seminars. Digwell says, Vitapod, yes, 12 varieties for this sowing. More to go in yet. Excellent. How many have I got? I've got about 6 varieties on the go already germinated and potted up actually. But we want to get more going. We need more going. Margaret says, my friends in Norfolk went on a beekeeping course for a few days. There is so much to it. Yep, that's why I'm going to be doing it with Mark for a bit of guidance, a bit of help. Nicholas says, raised beds, no issues, too wet. With regards to the rain, yep. Rob says, Steve, do you keep them in jiffy pots up to selling or pot on? There we go. Nicholas says, I have such a hard time with rules. Not. It's more a case of being considerate, isn't it? We don't own on an allotment. We don't own the land. If we owned it, that's when we could say what we want to do. But until we own it, we have no right in taking that on. What have we got? Digra says house insurance might cover you for claims about bees at home. Awkward at the allotment. It's a tough one, isn't it? It is a tough one. It's something I've got to look into better. We can keep hens low, but have to take care for rats. Again, I've got hens at home. So, but yeah. Nicola, I was told when I was going to have a hive in Brighton to have them next to a wall so they will fly to a wall, then go up the wall. Again, that's what a lot of people are saying. You want them to go up so that they distribute better, or fly up and fly around. Lots of things to think about there. Lots of things to think about. But we are coming near the end of this week's episode. What we need to do is have a quick go at the drawers. So we have got the mission. We've got 2 entries in there. I cannot remember what they are. So let's find out who is going to be the top of that. It's between Gary and Scott. You might have to remind me what they are. Scott, you are the winner for that this week. I can't remember what you suggested, so please do remind me what your mission was. And then what we want to do is the next one we want is the cookalong mission. Between Gary and Nigel, I think this was honey roasted parsnips or something where honey is the main ingredient. Who's again? It's going to be Gary with honey roasted parsnips. That should be a bit of fun. That should be a lot of fun indeed. Am I? Yep, still going. Honey roasted parsnips. Luckily, I've just harvested some parsnips from the allotment, so we've got plenty of those still going on as well. Right, so that's what I want. What we want to talk about next week. So for next week, I want to talk about garden tools and how you look after your garden tools. Might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I think it's a good subject to talk about and something that we can talk about quite extensively at this time of year, because garden tools are incredibly important. So if that's okay with you, I'm going to ask the question, how do you look after your garden tools next week? Scott says, find some local honey. That's the mission. Find some local honey. Digwell says, I sell the seedlings in jiffies, mixed sixes for online posting sales. Then the ones that do not sell get potted on for sale on Facebook. Excellent. And Scott says, and local beekeeper, I guess, if buying direct. Yep, that's exactly what we're going to do. Nicholas says, I lost one of my outbuilding roof and timber frame from the farm. Oh, that's very sad. Very sad. Sorry to hear that. What have we got? There we go. That's caught up with all the comments so far. Well, it is pretty much 7:30 now. It is, I think, time to pack up and go. I think we've had a good chat again this week. We've been chatting about bees. We've been chatting about what we're growing this year that we've never grown before. Mango wurzel seems to be a very popular one from you guys. And we've been discussing what we would employ people to do in the garden. And it sounds like most of you are with me. Tree surgery seems to be the most popular choice. Anyway, it is 7:30. It is time now to get out of here. We will be back again next Sunday at 6. And we're going to be talking about, as I said, garden tools. I haven't seen any complaints yet, so that's what we're going to do. Anybody got any subjects they ever want to discuss, please do feel free to reach out and suggest topics. Well, guys, you take care. I'll speak to you again next time. Until then, please take care.